Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk about where I get my news, because you can tell a lot about a person's politics by how they're seeing the world through their media lenses. Oh, that was a horrible joke. I would not be upset if you unsubscribed if you subscribe, which at this point there's nobody. So except myself, which is incredibly sad. Anyway, where was I? I was just going to list a few media sources that I use to see the world or get my information. Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck on the radio I'll listen to. Though I usually end up missing Glenn Beck, to be totally honest with you. I used to watch his show fairly regularly, but then it got canceled, so I don't really see that much back. From what I understand, he's actually lost a lot of sponsorships. Anyway, I'll get dragged into that. I'll watch, cable news, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Primarily, I'll watch CNN if there's an international story that's interesting, like the rebels taking over Benghazi or something, or, something international, I'll watch CNN. If it's a slow news day and I want to know where we are politically, I'll watch MSNBC and Fox. If I'm watching Fox, I'll probably watch Shepard Smith. I think is probably one of their best reporters on that channel. I used to watch Glenn Beck, like I said. Bill O'Reilly on occasion. I usually end up missing it. I used to watch it a lot more when I was at school just because the time lined up better. On MSNBC, I used to watch Maddow, but her show's been a lot crappier recently, in my opinion, so I haven't been catching it as often. I'll watch, not Dave Matthews, but Chris Matthews, that's it. Anyway, just because he's got a huge head. The guy has a ridiculously large head. I know I should be one talking. But on CNN, I watch, what's his name? Anderson Cooper. I can't stand Piers Morgan. And I think that's basically he's the only real reporter that I like, Cooper, that is on CNN. He evidently is coming out with a new show. I'm interested to see how it goes. It's supposed to be trying to eat up the Oprah block. Seems a little late to try, but good luck. Then I use internet sites, mostly on YouTube actually, to get international news and kind of a different perspective on American news. Internationally, I watch BBC. Al Jazeera you can get on YouTube. English is what I use, just because they have more correspondence in the Middle East. And the Middle East is almost always the place where things are blowing up. So it makes a lot of sense to watch a network that has people there all the time. So Al Jazeera kind of makes sense because of that. Also, there's a lot of little stories in the Middle East that kind of fall through the cracks in American media. But Al Jazeera is there, so they have to cover it. Well, they don't have to cover it. I'm sure there's stories they miss, but they cover a lot more Middle Eastern stories. There's also European News, or EN, I think is what it's called. I'm trying to remember. That one deals more with European news, of course. I think it's based in France, so they cover a lot of French politics, and they covered the English riots like nobody's business, and the Madrid riots, and yeah, they do a good job inside Europe covering. I'd like to have an Asian source, but they don't have the NHK on YouTube, as I understand it. Like, they have a site, but it's not big. But so I use RT because they've got an English dubbed version. That's on YouTube as well. In my opinion, they're not quite as good as Al Jazeera or BBC, but they definitely add another lens to the perspective. I know, I'm going to quote that joke continuously through this entire video. On the American side, I guess I watch some more progressive-minded people. I use the radio kind of for the right, and then I use the internet for the left. So those Young Turks, you can get them on YouTube once again. They focus primarily on American politics, you know, and interesting stories they do occasionally. They also have a number of other sites where they talk more about sports and the such, but I mostly just tune into the political one. Also, Democracy Now!, which is I guess both of these sites, both of these channels, I guess is what we should call them. I put in the progressive camp. Democracy Now! Is more a real news channel than the Young Turks. The Young Turks is almost like a talk show that deals with politics. Democracy Now! Is trying to be a real news channel, but it's like a progressive news channel, if you will, if that makes sense. If you watch it, you'll see what I mean. They're definitely, you know, all these channels have, you know, slants, or they lean one way or they lean the other, or they end up giving different perspectives on each story that they cover. And I like using so many just because you definitely get more of a perspective, a rounded perspective on a news story. You know, you see how it's playing in the Middle East, you see how it's playing in Europe and America, and you kind of understand it. I like to think a little bit better. But having said that, it doesn't seem to have helped the world very much, me looking at more news channels. But I didn't really have a heart, you know, I didn't really have high hopes for that. Once again, I'd like to have an Asian channel that's English dub that I could check out, just because then I feel a lot more rounded. Also African or South America, but I don't speak Spanish, and I can't for the life of me find an English dubbed African station, and I've looked for actually quite some time. Like, I can find TV clips from different channels there, but I can't find any, you know, BBCs there, if you will. And it's kind of frustrating. Having said that, I think that, I will say, I think that the BBC is a good source of news, but I will say also that it's awful close, it's really kind of close to America visions of the news, if you will. They're culturally, they're a lot closer, and it's, in my opinion, you should probably see it from a different cultural perspective, just because then, you know, the world has a bunch of different cultures, therefore, you know, you should see what they're saying too. It's mostly to see how they're handling the story, less the story itself, I guess, is the point of having all these news outlets. Also, they cover different news stories, you know, like, I mean, a flooding accident in America can be huge, but, like, internationally it's not going to play because there was a huge terrorist attack in, you know, Dubai or something. So it totally, the stories that they cover and what they choose not to cover is probably the most interesting way of seeing the news with so many different sites. Now, having said that, I should probably have more on this list. But I don't, because I don't like to waste all my time watching news. But if you have a list of news, you know, channels you watch, I'd love to hear about it. Just drop it below if you want. Subscribe, comment, rate. You know, if you hate Al Jazeera, I'd like to hear why. I mean, I will say, when it comes to Al Jazeera, they just have so many more correspondents on the ground. You get better coverage, you know. I mean, like, when they hit Tripoli, for example, there was like a few English American reporters, but they were basically locked in a hotel room in government control. And but not with Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera's got guys outside. They got them everywhere with cameras. You know, they in a way, you see what's happening a lot more clear in the Middle East because they don't have the same protections as Western reporters do, or obligations. I don't know what you want to call them, but the American reporters are kept a lot more safe, is a way of thinking of it. In my opinion. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that's how it is. Anyway, subscribe, comment, rate once again. If you want to leave all, you know, your news sources, I'd love to hear that. You know, it's be interesting. Anyway, subscribe, comment, rate. This is Subterranean signing off. Bye.